Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Let's talk about what next countries might get gigafactories or terafactories from Tesla.
But it sounds like it's big because it's called lithium ion, but it really, like our battery should be called nickel graphite.
I'm going to focus on Japan, but I'm going to talk about several other countries, including India, Australia, Korea, and plenty more. Are you ready? Let's go! There are several countries on the western side of the Pacific Ocean, Asia and near Asia, that have real potential for Tesla to open factories. There's mining resources, there's other things going on there. So we're going to talk about Japan, Korea, India. We're going to talk about Australia. Indonesia might be interesting. Thailand maybe. And we're going to talk about China too. I'll also cover European countries, Latin American countries, the Middle East.
What does this mean for our future products?
Tesla's growth plan requires more factories in more countries. Elon has said they want the factories closer to the consumers and closer to the raw materials. That will reduce cost, reduce pollution, and other consequences related to moving things back and forth all across the world. So which countries make sense in the near future? Popular candidates I hear about from people on Twitter and in YouTube comments are India, Korea, Japan, Australia. For any country we're considering, we have to look at what are the relevant markets like, the consumer side markets and supply side as well. What natural resources does the country have? What labor, what engineering talent does the country have? What's the regulatory and political environment? What kind of connections does Tesla have with that country? That's going to be big in this video. And more. I'm going to start with Japan. I think Japan is the most likely next country that we'll see a Tesla factory, and I'm going to explain why. I'm going to go through those factors and other factors to show why Tesla Japan seems likely in the near future. Japan is the third largest economy and the third largest car market in the world. It's fourth if you consider the European Union as a whole, but if you break it down country by country, Japan is the third largest market. It's got the third largest economy as well. Japan has a fantastic supply of labor and engineering talent. It's a very successful country, a very high-tech country with a very well-educated population. It's also a lot of fun. I lived in Japan for a year. I lived in Hiroshima, Japan from 1994 to 1995. I visited again in 97 and 2000. I speak a wee bit of Japanese and read it too. It's a really fun country, really nice people. Great food. Korea's got better food. India's got better food, but Japan's still got good food and great people and a great culture. Japan also has a strong demand for solar and grid storage, especially after the Fukushima nuclear disaster radically altered how Japan handles its electrical energy supply. Japan used to focus on nuclear energy, and they've taken a lot of nuclear power plants offline, which makes them more dependent on oil and other sources of energy from foreign countries. Japan would rather be self-reliant. Solar would help them do that. Solar and grid storage would help them do that. So the key reason why I think Japan is next is I see that the stars are aligned. And by stars, I kind of mean celebrities and important people. Recently, Tesla added Hiromichi Mizuno to their board of directors. Hiromichi Mizuno is a very prominent man in the Japanese political and investment and business community. Elon has a relationship with Yusaku Maezawa, who is a prominent Japanese businessman, a billionaire in the clothing industry. He also has a relationship with Soichi Noguchi, the Japanese astronaut who is about to fly on a SpaceX flight to the International Space Station. Elon's girlfriend, Grimes, loves Japan. She's a rock star, and she has had some success with her music in Japan. There's a perception in the business community that Japan is a difficult place to do business for foreign companies. This is true in a sense, but it's also misleading. McDonald's and Coca-Cola have been very successful in Japan. They're foreign companies and they are leaders in their industries. Japan has a problem. Their economy has been stagnant for decades. Tesla coming into Japan, firing up new industries, could lead to new growth and a resurgence of the Japanese economy. A massive investment by a strong brand could appeal to local leaders and help get Tesla over the hurdles that exist in trying to enter any country. There's a lot of things coming together. Japan has a strong partnership with Panasonic, a major company in Japan. Panasonic is the main manufacturer of batteries for Tesla vehicles in the United States at the Nevada Gigafactory. That partnership is strong and growing. Panasonic is based in Osaka, which is, generally speaking, Japan's manufacturing center. Tokyo is the finance, political, and Hollywood entertainment capital of Japan. Osaka is more the blue-collar manufacturing center, really. I'm picturing a plan where Panasonic and Tesla together invest in the Osaka area, where Panasonic builds a Terafactory to build high volumes of lithium iron phosphate and nickel manganese batteries to supply Tesla grid storage products and vehicles. Along with that, Tesla could build a Gigafactory in the Osaka area to build solar panels, solar roof, which is a fairly new product that doesn't have a lot of competition, grid storage, and vehicles, especially the Tesla, especially the future Tesla compact vehicle that would be a much better fit on Japanese roads. If you think about it, why else would Tesla add a prominent Japanese businessman to Tesla's board of directors? Hiromichi Mizuno is the former chief investment officer for the Japanese Government Pension Investment Fund, a very large and important fund that has a lot of connections to Japanese government officials and business people. That guy has serious connections in Japan. Mizuno also went to college at Osaka City University in Osaka, near the home of Panasonic, a great place for Tesla to invest. Japanese government economic development types tend to look at the future, and they tend to be pretty good at seeing where things are heading. The harsh reality is that as electric vehicles expand their markets, gasoline-powered vehicles and diesel-powered vehicles made by traditional Japanese auto manufacturers are going to decline, and those companies are going to decline as well. And those jobs are going to suffer. New Tesla factories and a new Panasonic Terafactory will create jobs to replace the jobs that are going to be lost. The new forthcoming Tesla Compact will be perfect for the Japanese market. I've said before, I picture this being a common global platform where each local market will be able to customize how the vehicle looks. And Japan can be pretty fun in how they design their vehicles, so I wouldn't be surprised to see 2 or 3 different designs for the Japanese market on top of the same platform that could be produced at a Tesla Gigafactory in Osaka using Panasonic batteries made in an Osaka Terafactory. Tesla is becoming a global brand. The Japanese can be somewhat resistant to foreign brands, especially if they're not well-established brands, but Japanese consumers tend to like strong brands, and Tesla is becoming that strong brand. The Halo cars, the Plaid Model S, and the Roadster help. The environmental connection helps. Having that celebrity connection. I picture Elon and Grimes going on a Japan tour. Grimes sings a few songs, Elon does a little dance, just like he did in China. He has a tremendous personality. She has a great personality. She loves Japan. I could see this really working. Combine that with the celebrity of Maezawa and Noguchi. And keep in mind, there's going to be a launch coming up where Noguchi will be flying to the International Space Station. And then a year or 2 later, Maezawa and Noguchi are possibly going to fly together on Maezawa's Dear Moon mission on SpaceX Starship. All of this continuing to expand Elon's presence and related Tesla's brand in Japan. There's no question there are challenges in the Japanese market. People say that the Japanese prefer Japanese brands, but the Japanese consumers love luxury brands, and they do love American brands as well. Another challenge is natural resources. There's not a lot of mining these days in Japan, but there has been mining in the past, and I believe there may be an iron mine still active in Japan. It certainly could be possible that Japan could increase mining, particularly of iron, that would support iron phosphate batteries. Japan also has high labor costs, and their labor regulations can be difficult. Tesla will be able to work around that. I don't think it's any worse than Germany, where Tesla opened Giga Berlin. So that's the case for Japan. I think you can apply all of that analysis to any other country, and what I see is a lack of connections in any other major country compared to what we see for Japan, with one exception. Robin Denholm is the chairwoman of the Tesla board, and she is from Australia. So we'll talk about Australia soon. A country I hear a lot about, and with good reason, is India. It is the second largest population in the world and getting really close to China as potentially number one in the future. It has a difficult economy. The economy is nowhere near as strong as China's. The car market is not the same. They have a very active vehicle market, but Tesla's cars, even if they come out with this new vehicle in a few years with a $25,000 price, that is well above the price of most vehicles in the Indian car market. It would be very hard to get a lot of sales in India unless India's economy becomes much, much stronger than it is. And I don't see a lot of promise for that when I follow the news in India. India has a very difficult regulatory and political environment, both at the national level and at the state or province level. Stepping aside from vehicles, solar and grid storage might be a big opportunity. India has embraced solar and has some very large solar projects. They may have somewhat of an unreliable electrical grid, and Tesla grid storage could be helpful in both stabilizing the grid and providing a stable supply of electricity for people who are wealthy enough to afford to buy power walls or businesses that can afford to buy power packs. Mining is big in India, and there's a lot of iron there. So that's great for lithium iron phosphate, which is probably the most sensible battery chemistry for a market that is primarily poorer people who are going to value the low cost over the better form factor of the nickel-based chemistries. I also see a great opportunity for Tesla in India with the future Tesla minibus or Cybervan. There's a lot of use of mass transit, and a well-done minibus or Cybervan could dramatically lower the cost and improve the quality of mass transit for the average person in India who uses those services. I should also mention that Pakistan and Bangladesh are neighbors of India. They have very large populations, but they are even poorer. I don't think there's any sense in Tesla opening a factory in either country. It might make sense for Tesla to sell the products that it makes in India to Pakistan and Bangladesh. The problem with Pakistan is that India and Pakistan do not have good trade relations. But India does have reasonable trade relations with Bangladesh, so it could be helpful in making a factory in India and selling those products on to Bangladesh. And maybe there's also some mining opportunities or other opportunities to work with Bangladesh on a project that's based in India. Keep in mind, I've never been to India, I've never been to Bangladesh, I've never been to Pakistan. This is all kind of far from me, and I'm kind of going on what I feel. I do think Indian food and Pakistani and Bangladeshi food is really, really good. And I think their cultures are very, very interesting. But I just don't see the market being that strong for Tesla to enter. And I should also mention, Elon did tweet that they do intend to start selling Teslas in India next year, 2021. I'm not sure how big the market is. I'm not sure how they're going to swing it, but he wants to do it, so that's a good sign. Another country I hear a lot about is Australia, and I actually have Patreon supporters in Australia. Australia is one of the biggest countries following this channel. Australia has a fairly wealthy economy. The problem is the population is pretty small, and although it has a decent car market, I'm not sure the car market is big enough that if Tesla opened a Gigafactory producing cars, it would make sense, because a Gigafactory is going to produce hundreds of thousands of cars a year, and that's probably more than the Australian market can handle. It might make more sense if those vehicles were going to be exported to other countries near Australia, like most obviously New Zealand, but also Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia. There are other countries in that area that could be good markets. I don't know enough about Australia's trade relations with those countries. A huge advantage for Australia is mining. They have a huge mining industry, including all the key minerals that Tesla would need to support a Terafactory making batteries. And again, it could be that a Tesla partner comes in with a Terafactory to make lithium iron phosphate and nickel manganese batteries, while Tesla makes a Gigafactory making solar panels, grid storage, and maybe Tesla vehicles as well. As I mentioned before, Tesla's board of directors chair is Robin Denholm, an Australian. She has some connections in Australia. So Australia has significant potential. I don't think it's next, but I think Tesla Australia could be soon. in the next few years maybe. Another country that gets mentioned frequently is South Korea. South Korea has a larger population and economy than Australia. Although I love Korean food, and I have been to Seoul and Busan, and I think it's a wonderful country, and it's also a very technologically advanced country, I think Korea is a huge challenge, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. The primary problem is that Korea has a very, very protectionist market, and it has very strong companies in the same industries that Tesla would like to enter in solar, in grid storage, in vehicles. And there are Korean manufacturers making electric vehicles. I don't see that Tesla has connections in Korea like it has in Japan or Australia. So it just seems like a little bit of a stretch. I would love to see it happen because I want Tesla to grow everywhere. But I think Korea is a market that's not going to happen yet. And it might not happen ever. Now, a country I never hear anyone talking about that I think people should talk about more is Indonesia. It has the 4th largest population in the world and the 16th largest economy. This is a serious country. Mining is huge in Indonesia, including nickel, which is a key mineral for Tesla's high nickel batteries and for the nickel manganese battery chemistries that are going to be used in other Tesla products. Unlike a lot of other countries, Indonesia has no significant domestic automotive industry, so there's real potential for Tesla to come in. There's foreign car companies, but there's no real major native Indonesian car companies. Indonesia would be a great opportunity for that Tesla compact vehicle. The population isn't as wealthy as some other countries, but it's a large population and it's a big market. While I'm talking about Indonesia, I should also mention Thailand, a reasonably large population, a reasonably strong economy, and a big car market. I do think there's potential for Tesla in Thailand as well. I don't know enough about it, so I'm not going to say more. If I get enough response, I'll do a video digging deeper into Thailand. Another place with great food, by the way. Let's talk about Europe. I get a lot of comments from people that Tesla should open other factories in Europe in addition to Berlin. Keep in mind the Berlin Gigafactory looks like it's going to be very large and produce a large number of vehicles. But the European car market is a very, very large market, so there's certainly potential for an additional factory somewhere else in Europe. I hear a lot from people in Norway and Sweden that Tesla should locate there. I think those car markets are smaller, and I think that would be a challenge. I think the most likely place for a Tesla factory might be the United Kingdom, England. England, France, and Italy are the largest economies in Europe. France and Italy have challenging markets in a variety of ways, challenging labor markets, challenging political scenes, and they're also very close to Germany, so they can be supplied by Giga Berlin. The United Kingdom has the best regulatory market and the largest car market, and the vehicles in the United Kingdom drive on the other side of the road, so it would make sense to make the vehicles with the steering wheel on the right-hand side of the car in the United Kingdom and make the vehicles with the steering wheel on the left-hand side of the car in Germany. I should also mention here that Russia has a fairly large car market. I don't think Tesla is going to be opening in Russia anytime soon, but it is an interesting possibility for the future. I also get asked a lot about the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates. They're all pretty wealthy countries, but they have very small populations. So I think it would be a challenge. And I also don't know if they have the labor supply for manufacturing and the technical expertise for manufacturing. They certainly have a lot of money for investment. The sun shines there a lot, so solar should have a lot of potential. And grid storage would be good to help the grid and to help wealthy consumers who want to be sure they have reliable electricity. There isn't much mining in these countries. A little bit of iron maybe in Saudi Arabia, but not a lot in general. So it's not clear where the supply of minerals would be for that. And of course, there's no domestic competition for vehicle manufacturing in those countries. So if they wanted to build a car factory and they were able to work something out with Tesla, maybe Tesla would go for it. And I should also mention that Gwynne Shotwell of SpaceX mentioned in an interview a long time ago that she has customers in Riyadh.
I'm personally invested in this one because I travel a lot and I do not love to travel. And I would love to get to see my customers in Riyadh leave in the morning and be back in time to make dinner.
So there may be some connection between SpaceX and those Middle Eastern countries on the Arabian Peninsula that could help develop some kind of relationship with Tesla and bring some kind of Tesla operations there. Now let's turn to the Americas. And before we hit Latin America, I've got to say Canada is a prime option for Tesla. Tesla already has operations in Ontario thanks to the acquisition of Hybar, which is based in Ontario. Canada has a relatively small population, but it's comparable to California. It has a fairly large economy. It's a wealthy country. It has great mining, including nickel and iron. So there's a lot of opportunity. If Tesla wanted to build a battery factory somewhere, Canada would be a great place for a battery terafactory. And Canada has a generally good regulatory environment, comparable to the United States. Turning to Latin America, the most exciting possibility there is Brazil. Brazil has a thriving car industry, mostly foreign brands. It has a large car market and the potential to export in other countries in Latin America, like Argentina, Chile, and Colombia. Brazil has a lot of mining, and it has a lot of potential for solar because they get so much sun. The challenge with Brazil is dubious governance. The government and political environment and regulatory environment is challenging, and there's a lot of crime. This is a problem across Latin America and Africa. I don't think these are hurdles. There's lots of other companies operating in Brazil. They're hurdles, but I think Tesla can get over them. So I think if Tesla were to start operations in some country in Latin America, Brazil would be my first guess. My second guess would be Mexico. Mexico is right next door to the United States, not far from California. It borders California, it borders Texas, where Tesla has operations. It has a large car market. It has a fairly strong economy, probably one of the strongest in Latin America. Foreign car makers do have a large presence in Mexico, so it wouldn't be unprecedented. There's lots of mining in Mexico, including iron. There's great solar potential. Mexico has some issues with political and regulatory environment and high crime like Brazil, like most of Latin America. But it's pretty promising, so I could see that happening too. I think the challenge is Brazil is closer to Latin American markets. And Mexico is so close to Giga Texas and Tesla's manufacturing in Fremont, it's not clear what Mexico would add. You know, it seems like vehicles made in Giga Texas could be shipped to Mexico and it wouldn't cost that much more than making vehicles in Mexico. I want to briefly mention the other Latin American countries, Colombia, Argentina, and Chile, the biggest among them, Peru. Their markets aren't big enough. It doesn't really make sense to me that Tesla would locate in these countries. They do have, a lot of them have good mining. A lot of them have a lot of other potential. Some of them may have more stable governments. I think Chile has a relatively stable government. So there might be some potential there. I just don't see it happening, but you never know. The last region I want to talk about is Africa. It's a very challenging environment in terms of crime, governance, and corruption. Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Egypt all have large populations. They have poor economies, but they have large populations, very large populations, and that creates some potential. Because they're poor, there's a pretty small market for Tesla's class of cars. You know, maybe Tesla could sell 10,000 cars or 50,000 cars in Africa, but a Gigafactory would produce hundreds of thousands of cars, and it doesn't make sense that Tesla would make vehicles of that class for that market. I do see significant potential for solar and grid storage, another place with grid reliability problems. And I see great potential in Africa for a Tesla minibus or Cybervan for mass transit. And just imagine a Cybervan that's bulletproof. If you're in an area with high crime, whether it's Brazil or Africa, and there's a crime problem, and you have a bulletproof van that people are riding around in, they're going to feel safer. It's going to be air conditioned with Tesla's HVAC system. That's going to be better than a lot of mass transit options they have now. So there's a lot of potential for that. I don't know what the market analysis would look like, but I could definitely see Tesla pulling off some kind of van project along with a solar and grid storage project in, say, Egypt or maybe Nigeria. Now, the last country I want to talk about is China. Tesla already has a factory in China, but China is the world's second largest car market and potentially the world's largest economy soon. There have been rumors that Tesla would open an additional factory somewhere in China. The Chinese government has been very favorable to Tesla. Let's face it, if you're a Chinese bureaucrat, no matter how wealthy and powerful you are, you still have to breathe the air. And Tesla is the biggest company working on making the air easier to breathe. So that's why I think China is a place that Tesla has succeeded. It might not be a democracy, but let's face it, America's not that democratic anyway. But the people who run China have a lot of power, and they want to breathe clean air. They want their kids to breathe clean air. They get it. So expansion in China seems very likely. And I've heard rumors that Tesla would expand and open a factory in Chongqing. It's early yet. Chongqing is in the center of China, so it's got access to a large share of the population that's not near the coast. The cost of labor is probably lower in Chongqing, and the cost of land and other investment may be cheaper in Chongqing. So there's a lot of potential for Tesla to open a factory there, access mines in the interior of China, and produce batteries and vehicles to further supply the Chinese market and help clean the air in a country that needs it. So what do you think? Where do you think Tesla will locate a factory next, and where do you think they should locate a factory next? Please let me know in the comments below. I want to say a special thank you to Joe Ramos and J&D Consulting. Joe Ramos is an IT professional who can help you anywhere in the United States and probably Canada. Check him out in the description below. And please check out my videos, subscribe, like this video, support me on Patreon. I have supporters on Patreon who are really helpful. It's helping me grow and expand this channel and improve the look and feel, which I think is looking a lot better. So thank you very much for watching.